Hi, and welcome to the second episode of my Dream Vlog series. I'm Nora from Nora Healings, and in today's video, I want to share some of my background with you and why it is that I can talk about strange experiences around dreams for hours. And this is going to be very personal, but still I want to share it so you can have an understanding about where I come from with all this. And then I will get into the first chapter of my astral abduction experiences that began when I was actually still a baby and lasted until I was about 6 or 7. And lastly, I will share one more dream from my dream journal. So since I can remember, I saw apparitions, shapes, shadows, figures and faces in the dark, and I could feel the energy that they gave off. And later on, I realized that these were very much like visitors from other realms and dimensions. And I was always afraid in the dark and I always had to have my door just a little bit open so that my room wasn't completely dark. And I always used to have quite a hard time to fall asleep at all. And also I was always highly sensitive to the moon energies and the moon phases. So this also had an influence on my sleep behavior. And it just happened very regularly that as soon as I laid in bed, I started having very strange sensations all over my body, and I had strange visions, and I was overcome with like an inner restlessness that is hard to describe. And mostly to the point where I just felt so uncomfortable that I had to get up and tell my parents that I can't fall asleep. And I did this so often that my parents started to become annoyed because they thought that I'm only looking for excuses to not having to go to bed. And because of that, many times I didn't even get up anymore because I didn't want my parents to get mad. And so many times I just passed my time distracting myself by, sounds really silly, but I was rotating my astral body just around myself in the bed. Sometimes I took walks in the village where I lived, but mostly I was just like turning in my bed. And if I did fall asleep at some time, I either had like really wild and vivid dreams. I also used to sleepwalk a lot, or I was astrally abducted. And I say astrally abducted because that's what I was told by some psychics that I had sessions with. I always thought I was like physically abducted. It's really hard for me to tell the difference because everything felt very real and very physical. And I feel like I can remember that once when it happened, I looked at my bed and my bed was empty. But I don't know, maybe it was both, but I guess most of these experiences were just my astral body being taken. And it happened very frequently during my childhood until the age of like 12 to 13. And during the day, I would not be thinking about the experiences, and I only remembered it right in the moment before falling asleep again. And it felt very much like living two lives at once. There was like day life where I went to school and lived the life of a mostly normal child. And at night, where my astral body was taken aboard ships into different planets and places across the galaxy, and even to other dimensions. And sometimes I even ended up in dangerous places. But most of the times I was safe and taken care of. And when I told my parents about these experiences, they dismissed everything as, you know, just dreams, or you just have a wild and hyperactive imagination. And I am pretty sure that they just wanted to protect me because I knew that they knew about the spirit realms and about other dimensions and about extraterrestrials, and they had experiences themselves. But I just guess they didn't want me to worry about it too much. And I can imagine that, yeah, probably they also didn't want to entertain the idea that, you know, their child was visited by spirits and astrally abducted by aliens almost every night. And I will come back to my astral abductions in a moment, but first I want to share some more about other weird experiences I had in my childhood, especially at night, just to give you a bit more of an overall picture. Many times I used to wake up in the middle of the night, but without really waking up. And it was really, really strange. And it's not like sleep paralysis, because I was very much able to move and get up, but my brain was still dreaming. And I had hallucinations, and I just really couldn't tell if I was awake or not. I was not able to really feel my body. So I wasn't in my body. And I had a ritual that I did every time that this happened to me. It did happen very frequently. So when this happened, I used to get up and turn on the light and then go to the bathroom and wash my hands and my face, and like really trying to feel the water and feel the temperature and the texture and taste and smell it. And then I returned into my bedroom, and I used to open up the window and look outside, breathe some fresh air, and just look at the neighborhood and try to, you know, to see if everything was still in the place where I remembered it to be. And I looked at the street and the parking lot and just looking for some sense of familiarity, because it was so strange. It did look like my neighborhood, but it was just this feeling that it's fake, or like I'm not really there. This used to take me like 10 minutes. And at some point I decided that I was probably actually up and that I wasn't asleep anymore. And that was the moment when I started just closing everything down again and turning off the lights and going back to bed. But it was the same ritual that I did every time that this happened to me. And once I woke up in the middle of the night and thought it was time to get ready to go to school. I'm pretty sure I was 7 years old and I was in first grade. And my mom woke up and asked me where I'm going. And I said, to school. And my mom told me, but it's 2 a.m. and school is closed. And yeah, that was another strange moment, because I was so sure that I checked the clock and that it showed that it was between 6 and 7 a.m. But so I went back to bed. And another time, and that was like an extreme case, but yeah, it's important. So I was sick, I had a fever, and I was in this really strange in-between state anyway because of the fever. And I woke up in the middle of the night, like feeling extra strange and hallucinating like crazy. And I hallucinated about the whole apartment being full of like these, it looked like spider web, but also like moist wipes. And maybe I have to explain, I had a baby sister at that time. And I don't know if you ever like checked out the moist wipes when you pull them apart. And when you do that, it does look like spider web somehow. And this was what I saw, like all over the apartment, there was these nets made of moist wipes. And yeah, I went crazy and I started to take all of it down, and I can still remember it very vividly. I did really see this, and I could even feel it when I grabbed it. It did feel like spider webs. And my mom woke up once again and asked me what the hell I'm doing in the middle of the night. And I said, moist wipes, like moist wipes everywhere. Why are they everywhere? What is going on? And she looked at me like I completely lost it. And she told me that there are no moist wipes. And I even tried to convince her and was like, really? Like, can you not see this? And I grabbed more of it and like pulled it apart, like trying to show her, look, here it is. And she was like, no, there are no moist wipes. Only you can see this. And then she told me to please try to get some sleep. It's okay, there are no moist wipes. And I went back to bed. And this is something I will never, ever forget because this was just such a vivid hallucination. And also, I used to be a lucid dreamer, just a natural lucid dreamer for a couple of years, actually. And if I wanted to, I was even able to return to a dream that I enjoyed the night before and continue that dream. So that was really cool for a while. But I also often experience the so-called false awakenings. This is where you think that you are awake and going about your day, but you're actually not, because you will wake up and get up again and maybe again and again. And once I slept over at my aunt's place, and I think I was 6 years old, and I experienced the worst loop of false awakenings that I can remember. I woke up at her place several times in a row, like at least 10 or 12 times, to the point where I wasn't even panicking anymore. I was just becoming really angry and frustrated and started just smashing and breaking things. And then I woke up once more and immediately just grabbed the cup that was by the side of the bed and threw it against the wall where it broke. And my aunt came in and asked me what is going on and what's wrong with me. And I just said, it doesn't matter, you know, nothing matters. This is just a dream. Nothing is real. And she told me that she believes that we are awake and that this is real, and that I just broke a cup by throwing it at the wall, and that this is not okay. Like, I can remember that she said, you cannot just break things like this. And then I paused for a moment and started to realize that it could be that I am actually back in the physical world, and that I actually woke up, and that I had an aunt who doesn't understand because she just wouldn't believe me. And so I just went silent, just like I always went in similar situations. And so I had a strange and complicated relationship with nighttime and sleeping and dreaming overall. And now back to my astral abduction experiences. And as I mentioned, it felt very much like living two separate lives at once for several years. And the first memories I have are still like me in my crib, so very, very young. And it happened very frequently that I was taken to a ship at night. And it seemed to mostly be the same ship with the same beings, at least in this chapter, from when I was a baby until, like I said, like 5, 6, maximum 7 years old. Excuse me. And the beings were really tall, and they had blue skin, and they wore robes that were also white or blue, and their features were actually very human, but maybe like slightly elvish. They were actually very, like, I would say they were beautiful. And the ship also had a lot of blue and white. And like the image I remember the best of the ship is when I looked to the front. In the front there were like many screens, and on the right side there were either windows or screens that looked like windows, and then there was like a children or school area on the left. And there was one being that felt very familiar, so I wasn't scared of them. And this one female being, she almost felt like a mother, and we deeply bonded. And she seemed to somehow be, at least to some degree, in charge of this place. And there were also other children on the ship, and we were given exercises, or we were asked questions, and it felt like being tested. And I remember being told that I did well most of the times. And most of these exercises, when I think back, it really feels like we were trained, or we were learning about how to act human. And I know it sounds really strange, but this is how it feels. It was like we were trained to behave like human children on Earth. And I was good at it. And I remember this one exercise where it was on a screen, and I feel like it was a holographic screen with images. And I remember the images. There was an image of a house, of a man, of a tree, of a boy, of a dog, and a ball. And we had to, or I was supposed to, like, connect two images with each other. And I connected the boy with the tree and the dog with the ball. And one of the male blue beings came up and asked me why I did that, and told me that that wasn't quite right. And I said that I wasn't so sure about that one, but I made the choice because dogs do love to play with balls, and boys or children like to play outside and climb trees. And the being hesitated for a moment and talked with another one for a moment, and they let my answer pass. And I must have been like maybe 3 years old, but I still remember this very vividly. And another time, I was in a room with a younger boy, and the boy must have been like, I don't know, maybe roughly 2 years old. And I remember that he wore a shirt that had red and white stripes. And I had some exercises in front of me once again on the screen. And there was a gray alien standing in the corner, or in the corner. It wasn't really a corner, but it was like one end of the room. So I was like, I was here, and on the right side was a door or an exit. And on the other side was this gray alien standing there. He was holding something in his hands. I don't know if it was a screen or something else, but it looked like he was either reading or taking notes or something like that, and also just observing me and the boy and watching over us. And the boy started crying like really hard and calling for his mom. And so I went over to him and started, I tried to soothe him, and I told him, hey, it's okay. You're gonna be with your mom soon again. We will be home and with our moms very soon again. You don't have to be scared. And I picked up some toys that were laying around him and just tried to distract him. And one of the male beings came in and asked me what I was doing and why I wasn't doing my exercises like I was told. They were really strict, especially him. And he told me to get back to my exercise and leave the boy because this is not my job. And I don't clearly remember if I actually said to him that I can't concentrate when the boy is next to me and feeling alone and scared, or if I only wanted to say that. But the male blue being turned to the gray alien and told him to make the boy stop crying. And the gray asked him, how? What am I supposed to do? And the blue being told him, I don't know, do what she did. And he pointed towards me. And I remember the gray alien just looking at me and then walking towards the boy and kneeling down and very much imitating just what I was doing. And it looked so funny because I was standing behind my screen again and looked over to them, and I saw the gray from behind. And he was with the boy, like kneeled down, and he made these really funny movements and noises, like but I was okay with that because I felt like, okay, now the baby's taken care of, now I can concentrate on my exercises. And I could hear a conversation in the background of the male and the female being about if I should be punished for not doing what I was told. And this was like a panic moment for me. I can remember that my heart really started beating fast. But the female being, Sinuno, let her continue. She didn't mean to disobey. She just, she's sensitive and empathic and just felt the boy's pain and wanted to help. And by the way, it's actually your responsibility to keep the children undistracted, or something along these lines. And he said something like, yeah, okay, it's okay for this time, but we can't have children that just, do whatever they want and run around and maybe push some buttons or something. And yeah, as I already mentioned, they were really strict, and they did have a device to even punish someone. And I believe that there was also something to reward someone, but I don't really remember that. But I very much remember this device that was used to punish people, or all kinds of beings. And it looked like a round platform that one stands on, and then when someone stood on it, it was like activated and it turned red. And there was like this beam that was like a force field at the same time, like shooting upwards. And I witnessed someone being punished once. And I feel like it looked like an insectoid being, but I'm not entirely sure. I saw it from behind, and it did have wings, and it was brown. Reminded me of a cockroach or something. And this thing was activated, and even just standing near it, like the feeling was so bad. It was like being electrified and burned and like fried all at the same time. And I don't actually believe that it was physically harming, but it created the feeling. Also, I'm not sure if it made a sound or not, but it was just horrible to witness that. And I was really scared of this thing. And around this time, my parents and I used to live in Spain, and I went to sort of a preschool or pre-kindergarten there. And one day they wanted to measure our weight and brought a scale that everyone was supposed to stand on. And it was a round platform that turned red while standing on it. And when I saw this, I had like a PTSD reaction. I ran off and hid in a corner, and the teacher came up to me to check on me and asked me what I'm so afraid of. And I told her that I don't want to stand on this thing, that I know that it gets hot and it's painful to stand on it. And she looked at me confused and told me that it's only a scale. And she told me to, just take my hand and come with me, and I'll show you. We can watch the other children standing on it so you can see for yourself that nothing happens. And so I did, and I watched the other children. But when it was my turn, I ran off again and hid in my corner again. And I didn't leave my hiding spot until the scale left the building. Yeah. But actually, I don't really remember having any like negative experiences on the ship or with the beings. It was just this device that really, really scared me. And I remember this one night when I was brought back home, I was told that it was the last time and that they wouldn't return to come get me anymore. And I came to in my little bed, and I was just so overwhelmed by sadness, and I felt like abandoned, like now they are just done with me in a way. But this one female being that I bonded with, she found a way to kind of return, but it wasn't on the ship anymore. So it was in a world, or maybe it was even just an artificially created like hologram environment, but it felt and looked very real. And it was actually beautiful and vibrant. There was this structure that looked like quite a large platform with a roof supported by 4 pillars, and everything was made of this white stone. And it was beautifully overgrown with these plants with small shiny leaves that were hanging down. And all the structures there, the stairs, some statues, and there was a fountain, and everything was just artfully carved and made of this white stone. And the vegetation and the water, they were like so full of life that everything looked just shimmery and sparkly and bubbly and just magical. And this being, she arrived there and she greeted me. But very soon she told me that we were actually not allowed to meet anymore and that we will have to say goodbye. And I asked her why so many times, but she just didn't tell me. She just said, look, that's just how it is now. That's the rules. And I could tell that something was going on and something was bothering her, but she just wouldn't tell me. And the last time that we met there, I think we met like 3 or 4 times there after this. And once was the last time. And I remember that we held hands and we both cried, and she told me that, yeah, we're not going to meet again. And then I woke up back on Earth and just, once again, like extremely heartbroken and overwhelmed and confused. And yeah, this was the first chapter of regular abductions in my childhood. And the second chapter with completely other beings and other experiences began at, I believe, around 7 and lasted until I was about 12 or 13. And I will share that with you in the second part, because otherwise it's going to get a little bit long. But before I say goodbye, I will share one more dream from my dream journal. And once again, it's a dream with elements of magic. And I had this dream someone last year. It was around the time when I started to work with energy on another level. And it's in the dream journal that I just can't find anymore. And that's really a pity, because I'm not sure if I accidentally threw away one of my dream journals, because I just moved to a new place. And I do remember that I threw away 2 notebooks, and maybe one of the notebooks had some of my dreams inside as well. But I can still remember it very vividly, and so I wrote it down in my other dream journal, and I will read it to you now. So I was in this large and very fancy mansion, and it looks like a little bit 80s style. So there was a lot of like dark polished wooden walls and marble floors and walls in the hall. And in the hallway leading to the dining room, in the dining room, there was a dark table and chairs around it. And the floor was marble, but it was in this chess pattern. So it was like white and black. And on the left of the dining room, there was a swimming pool, or actually it was 2 swimming pools, and it was like partially open. So when you were in the dining room, you could see the pool from there. And it kind of looked like the place of someone rich who, likes to celebrate orgies and stuff. It was just the vibe in there. And there was a pool party going on, and I actually recognized some people there, and it was people that I went to school with. And I looked down on myself and I realized that I was in a bikini and holding like a glass of champagne or something. And then I knew that, okay, probably I'm like supposed to party with them. And so I almost got the feeling that the others were under some kind of spell because they didn't seem to feel like anything was strange about that place, or that all of us met there and had a pool party for no reason. And but I just joined the party for a moment, so I went in the pool and just talked to the people and acted like I didn't feel anything strange. And for some reason I had the feeling that it wouldn't be smart to, let the others know that I feel like something is off. So I just kind of played along. And there were these waiters that were security guards at the same time. That was also a little bit suspicious to me. And it just very much looked and felt like a place where, maybe satanic ritualistic orgies and events took place. And I was just observing and waiting for the host, who was the owner of that place. And he arrived and I instantly knew it was him. And I knew this is some sort of a black magician. He had this arrogant and kind of devilish smile and this black aura around him. And again, I just acted like I was equally under the spell, really caring about what was actually going on. And he stood at the entrance of this dining room. And I passed him because I wanted to get out of there, or at least I wanted to go into another room. And when I passed him, I felt like I have to say or interact in some way. And so I smiled at him and said, hey, this is a really beautiful house and a really beautiful place. And do you mind if I go check out the piercing and tattoo studio over there? Because for some reason he had a extremely large piercing and tattoo studio in his mansion as well. And it was in that long hallway that led towards the exit. And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, explore the place. And he snapped his fingers, and all of a sudden he changed my clothes. All of a sudden I was in this black, tight, like cocktail dress, and I wore a necklace and some bracelets that were really shiny. And I smiled at him again and said, yeah, sure, I'll be there for the dinner. And where was I? Oh yeah, he gave one of the security guards a sign to keep an eye on me. So I was like, shit. And I was walking towards this studio and looked behind me, and the guard was not following me like close, but he just stood in the hallway and just kept an eye on me. So I was like, okay, it won't be that easy for me to just like walk out of here. So I did as I said, and I went into that studio. Oh yeah, right. This scene almost seems separate from the rest of the dream, but then again it wasn't, because as soon as I entered that studio, it felt like I spent quite a lot of time there, and I even got a lot of piercings, like strangely all in my lips and in my mouth and my tongue. And I got so many that they like got caught in each other, and I wasn't even able to speak or, to open up my mouth anymore. And so I was quite busy, and I was at a mirror there, like trying to get all of them in order. And then at some point I left this studio again, and I was back in the mansion. And yeah, it was dinner time. So I went towards the dining room, and everybody was sat at this table, and the waiters were already serving the meals. And all of the plates that they brought were covered with this silver cloche. So it's like the silver cover that looks like a dome. And on the plate in the middle, when they lifted this cover, there was a living baby. And as soon as they did that, I immediately got up and just took the baby and said, okay, this is not going to happen. And I knew in that moment that, okay, now I'm probably in danger, because they realized that I'm not under any kind of spell, and I'm not going to let this happen under any circumstances. And the host got mad, and he like got up and tried to attack me, like with magic or energy. And I ducked down under the table, and I was crawling towards the hallway, but they blocked my way. But I could see that in the hallway there was like a stairs that led up to the hallway, and the baby's parents were there, and two guards were standing in their way, so they couldn't get to their baby. And I knew that it was this baby's parents because the baby was really, really small. So it was maybe as large as a hand. Actually too small for a human child. And the parents were also, they were really small. They were like these elven people of some sort. So I knew these are the parents of this little baby. And yeah, as I said, the host tried to attack me like with magic or energy. And in this moment, I only had one hand free, because with the other hand, I was holding the baby here. And I just remember that I screamed and I beamed some sort of energy towards him and the guard that was standing next to him. And it was really an interesting effect, because it was like the energy that they tried to beam to me kind of, it wrapped themselves into a bubble, and it was like it affected them instead of me. And they went like this, like, ah, and I was like, ah. And yeah, they were busy with that for a while. And then I went on to do the same thing to the guards that were in the hallway blocking the parents. And I could also like push them aside a little bit, and they were almost like paralyzed. And in that moment, I was able to like slip the baby across this smooth marble floor towards the parents, and they picked it up and ran off. Yeah, so that was all that I remember from this dream. That was it for today. If you have similar experiences that you would like to share, or if you have a dream that you would like to share, please do so in the comment section. I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties that I had today, but I will try to figure out a way how to fix, the camera with not being focused. Maybe I have to be a little bit further away or something. If you're interested, please check out my homepage, norahealings.com. The link is down in the description. I do intuitive counseling, tarot readings, and energy work. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned for part 2. Stay well and sweet dreams.